are here today at Anderson's Apple Orchard. Here we have Amy.
Hi.
So Amy, would you like to tell us a little bit maybe about yourself or the history of the Apple Orchard?
Sure. My father started working here. His name is Terry Anderson. He started working here for a man named Orville Tribbian in 1970. And my parents bought the farm in 1978, so we've been here for 42 years now. We have about the same amount of acreage of apples. We grow about 150 acres of apple trees.
So, what kind of apples do you grow on your farm?
We have about 15 different varieties that we grow. So we start picking our first variety. They're called Lodi's in the end of July, 1st of August. And then we'll pick our last variety, which will be the Fuji's, and we'll pick them towards the end of this week.
So did you guys always have the same apple trees that you do now as when you bought the farm, or have you guys planted a lot more?
Yeah, we have, we replant our apple trees after they're about 25 or 30 years old. An apple tree can live to be 100 years old if taken care of well. But as the years go by, the demand for product changes, so we've obviously changed with demand, because like right now, Red Delicious apples are hard to sell. Nobody really wants to buy them, so we like to change into the newer varieties. Honeycrisp is probably one of the newer varieties, along with the Pink Ladies we're able to grow here now. So
okay, so when you say newest variety, is that within the last like 5-10 years, or?
Probably within the last 10 years. So
okay.
There's some newer varieties that have come out, but we haven't gotten into those kinds yet.
Okay. Cool. And then, when do you normally plant the trees? Like if you were planting new trees, what season would you plant those in?
We plant our new trees in the springtime. And then it usually takes about 4 or 5 years before they produce a good quality of apples on them. So.
All right. Well, that was my question.
Kind of scary.
How long after planting the trees do they start to produce? And that was what, 4 or
5 years, they'll produce good quality. You don't want them to have apples on them the first year that you plant them, because you want their roots to grow stronger. So we suggest picking blossoms off of trees their first year. The second year, they'll get 2 or 3 apples on them, but going into years 4 and 5, they produce good apple crop. So.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. And you said how many years before they actually begin producing? So that's 4 to 5 years, and then they get into full swing. Okay, and then you did also say that you plant the newer varieties that come out. And how are these? Are these something that is crossbred, these new varieties that we don't really hear of, and then all of a sudden there's a new type of apple out?
They do a lot of experiments in labs in the state of Washington, and there's another college, I think it's the University of Minnesota, that does a lot of experimenting with different varieties, and they're trying to, the Honeycrisp was so big that they're trying to come out with something that's very similar. So they've crossed the Honeycrisp with other kinds, and yeah, it's quite interesting.
Yeah, it is. It is. So what else is there to do here besides apple picking?
We have, like right now, we're doing pumpkin picking. So in the fall, on October weekends, we do pick your own pumpkins. We'll take you on a wagon ride. We also have a petting zoo that's run on donations. And our petting zoo is open April through December, every day of the week. And you just come and leave what you feel comfortable in the box, and you can feed the goats and a lot of other critters. Mr. Anderson has accumulated lemurs and kangaroos, wallabies, camels, reindeer. There's lots of different stuff here to see. So,
That's great. That's great. It's a great place to bring your family, and great place for kids to roam around and be outside and enjoy the good weather.
Yeah. So as you can see behind us, this is a apple tree. Now, what type of apple tree is this?
these are Ida Red apples.
Okay.
So
Okay. Now, how do you tell the difference between each apple tree?
you remember what you planted with.
So you can't really an apple and identify it.
No. Some kinds you can, because they grow just a little bit different, but it's really hard to tell just by the tree of what kind of apple they produce. Do you want me to go over like the seasons and how they?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the apple trees behind us, we just picked earlier this week. They're a later variety. The Ida Red is one of the last varieties we pick. Pretty soon the apple trees will lose their leaves and they become dormant. In the wintertime when the trees are sleeping, we prune those apple trees so that they will produce a good quality fruit, which means Mr. Anderson and his crew goes through and trims the branches so that they'll produce a good quality. Then in the springtime, the apple trees, we call it wake up, and they start growing again when it gets warm out, and they'll get blossoms on them. Here at our farm, we have a beekeeper that brings 150 beehives into the orchard, and they will pollinate all those blossoms. If we didn't have the bee, we wouldn't get the apples. And then it takes all summer for those apples to grow into the apples that we get to pick in the fall. So it takes quite a few months for the apples to go from the blossom to an apple that you can pick and eat.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Amy, for all this information. I've even learned a lot myself today. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this short little virtual field trip to Anderson's Apple Orchard.